Alrighty, and we are back. Happy Monday, everybody. Episode 84 of the Leonis Report. JB and I back with some speculative news about some upcoming things. We do have a patch dropping tomorrow, so lots of exciting things to go over. But before we jump into things, what's going on, man? Happy Monday. How's things going?
It's going. Yeah, we were just talking a bit before we get on here, but both kind of feeling that the winter time kind of sickness coming in. So a little bit lower energy for me today, but yeah, we got a kind of a big, you know, a lot of unknown stuff, I should say, coming in this week. So that'll be a little bit fun. Keep us on our toes a little bit. Get a new winter unit, kind of similar to what they did last year.
Yep.
So how about you? How's everything going?
It's been good. Weekend was pretty low key. I mean, we're in that holiday spirit time of year. My decorations are up by this point, and I had a little family party over the weekend for a younger cousin for a birthday. But other than that, we're just watching some football, playing some video games, and just uh, trying to catch up on sleep. That's the name of the game when you're, I guess, getting as old as we are.
Yeah, we did all our Christmas lights and decorations this past weekend too. So,
Very nice.
it's that time of the year. It's fun to see it when you drive around. It gets dark so early here. So gotta have, some fun to it.
It does. Honestly, it's super cozy. We've already thought about once Christmas is over because we celebrate Christmas. Like, what do I do to replace the Christmas tree? Because we realized how like pretty the lighting is inside, and so we're already looking at like other kinds of lighting we can put up there. But it's nice.
Nice. It looks
Uh,
like maybe just lower my volume like another decibel to maybe even us out.
yep. Yeah, I couldn't figure out what's going wrong. Unfortunately, I'm a little bit light or low tonight, despite the fact that I have the filter cranked up as high as possible. So I'm sorry, guys, but hopefully we can work through this nonetheless. But let's at least talk about the topics tonight. We are going to kick things off with the Grand Arena results, which just wrapped up this week. There's a lot to kind of dissect there. It's been a hot topic all over the community, quite frankly. We'll talk about our impressions of Rikku now that she's been out for a week, just to kind of, what have we seen? Does she match what we thought? And then we are going to dive right into the new winter unit where Winter Perrene was announced. We don't know everything, but we have at least a promotional image to at least make some preliminary predictions and some judgments off of, and a whole bunch of updates to talk about with the other winter units. We have some +6 items we're just going to like highlight for you, things to look forward to. New PvE content with the Holy Flan challenge. We don't know much, but at least to bring some attention to it. And then class match, and then we'll end things with our 5 hot takes. So not terribly dense, but enough to certainly talk about, and not the least of which is the Grand Arena results. And you were able to talk to the winner of Grand Arena this week and got some insight as to what they did. And so we thought we'd show off the strategy here and talk through it. Anything you want to talk about first about Grand Arena before we kind of dive into the this team itself?
Um, I think I'll save most of it for like the feedback section at the end, but overall, I think it's a good value add for the game. I had some fun with it. There are some clear issues though that hopefully Justin is listening and can pass them to the team because I think it could be quite a nice boon for the game if they put a little bit more attention to it. So yeah, we'll talk about that in a couple minutes. But
Yeah.
the number one finisher was Leold or Leold. I'm not quite sure the pronunciation, but it's a player that I've known for a while from the manual side, and he's actually a a multiple time number one finisher in class match as well.
Nice.
He's a very good player, and I was very surprised. I was not partaking in like the top ends of this time around. I was taking a little bit more casual. The time investment was substantial, and I just didn't have the time to get into it. So um, I finished. I was able to get into the top 100, so I had a good taste of what was going on. But I did not see this team. This I think this team was, something that was going around in the top ends purely because of this player Leo. This was his unique strategy that he put his own team together here and was able to perform very very well with it. I think he averaged something like 793 points or maybe even more. But when you factor that in over what was it like 120
Oh
or
God.
150 refreshes over the 5 days, that's very impressive. Like to only lose that many points. So
Right.
um, you can see here on the screen, this was kind of some details that he gave about his strategy, but I think a big part of it obviously is Ramza's buff and kind of getting the 60% attack and magic across the whole team, getting the CT effects as well. That's a very nice buff, when you can have it across that many units. And then he's got good mobility, and he can do some okay damage and things like that. So um, basically, he relied to me that he was essentially just kind of looking to take out the enemy Jaden as quickly as possible, and that was kind of the basis of his strategy. So you can see the Keen Blade is on there for Ramza as well. So that's nice tech there too. So definitely congrats to him. He's going to get the 3,000 viz. He's got enough recipes to finish out the item. So it's all very exciting.
Yeah, was very cool to see this. I know one of the like half-heartedly joking complaints was KT7 Up made a video of his top 10 placement in JP, which almost everybody stole to some effect in the top 200 even that I saw, because I ended up placing in like the mid 200s. I didn't take it all that seriously. I just went mono element, and I had one general team I would end my day with, but I didn't really theorycraft. But you could tell even as high as the 200s that you were seeing this one singular team kind of dominate it. And
Oh
I'm
yeah.
actually really happy to see that he took a unit like Ramzik. And I actually am not terribly surprised. You astutely had pointed out like the real big benefits of that buff, and we were talking about the tactics upgrades and just how powerful that was. And I don't think anyone ever really doubted it. It was always just a question of like, all right, it looks nice in practice, but realistically, when are you going to use it to a legit competitive advantage? Obviously, we always kind of skew Guild War in the sense of like the 3v3 matchup. Obviously, some people knew of the 5v5 implications, but the fact that you actually placed number one with this is certainly very cool to see. And obviously, does still take a fair amount of like minute detail things like he's talking about with the Keen Blade order. And obviously, there's a whole bunch of questions with range, who's in range and who's not, and how people move across the map depending upon where enemy hate is, and just all of those things. That the fact that he was able to achieve such a consistently great score is exceptionally impressive, because you mess up once and that could be the whole end of your week. You do one bad mock and you end up losing something. You make one small tweak thinking in your head, hey, this is what I need to do, and it ends up backfiring and you completely lose it. So the margin for error is so minute. It's exceptionally impressive.
And that's kind of the cool thing about Ramza too, with the Sword of Leger, getting him the additional movement there too. So I'm guessing he's probably at move 5 there, and he's in the 5th position. So he can kind of go and cut right over to the 3 units on the left side. P4 is probably moving over in that direction too, towards slot 1. So kind of congregates everybody there in the middle platform. So I can see how that would work out pretty nicely. Going back to your point on, on the KT7 up thing, that was kind of a weird development and had big ripple effects on the meta and how this kind of played out, because he did post kind of a video about it, which was very helpful, and props to him, and I love his videos. But I don't know if he watches us. I think that he's watched some of our videos, but I don't know if he watches the podcast. If he does, I would ask him, please don't post your fully evolved top 10 team next time around. Kind of let our meta develop organically. That's I feel the same way about the JP folks that post the guild raid stuff, and some of those things have huge impacts on how the competition plays out here. I would just prefer that it be organic and kind of let us have our uh, our game play out as it should.
Yeah, absolutely pros and cons to that. I mean, we constantly look to JP for like Guild War teams as well, and so but to that point, I feel like Guild War always takes a different mind of its own because it's more of a collaborative effort. So the product you see on JP doesn't always come to fruition here. But when it comes to singular personal achievements like the rank one in arena or the guild raids where you're just using your own account versus the field, if you will, to get these scores, then it's certainly yeah, you're right. It kind of opens doors and already gives people a shortcut to getting to the top score. And at that point, you're really talking about like who's got more reincarnations, and it just really kind of like tightens the competition in a way that I guess could would take the fun and creativity out of getting there in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, there's no problem in borrowing comps, or if you see something that's working well, kind of riffing on it or whatever. I would just, like I said, I would prefer it happen within our own community and not, 100 or 1,000 people stealing this one team and just throwing it in there and kind of, yeah, having such a big influence on it.
I could say that I hadn't considered it till I saw it. To be honest, I did not even think for a second that that many people would adopt that team comp, and
It
spread
was
as
a great
quickly as it
team.
did. It was a great team, right? And
Yeah.
at some point, not only like all it takes is a small handful of people to take it from his video, because then everyone in arena is going to copy what they see as well. I know I got to that point. I never
Oh
did
yeah.
it, but like once I was at the 200s and I saw more and more and more and more and more of that same team in my head, I was like, well, at some point I'm probably just gonna have to copy someone's team here, right? Like
Yeah,
unless
you're
I
like,
can,
if everybody's using it, it must be good.
right,
So let
right,
me give it a spin.
and I don't have the flexibility to like mock if I can come up with a team to beat it. Because if I keep losing, then I'm just gonna lose my whole rank, and that defeats the whole purpose too. So yeah, very interesting how it plays out. But I guess it's a good segue to talk about how it did play out in terms of things we like and didn't like. Any feedback on the game mode or things you just want to talk about it by and large here now?
So I guess let's start out with positives, what we liked about it. And for me, I liked being able to dive into the box a bit more than we usually can. So just like with PvE stuff, 5 units, 10 cards. You get to utilize more of what we've collected over time. That feels good. Kind of allows you to use some more niche units as well, maybe for specific buffs or specific abilities, and not feel like they're dragging the whole team down, but maybe they're adding something of value. So I liked all of that stuff. The and just kind of the whole theory craft and team setup was a lot different than we're used to from like regular arena. I do like that they added a specific piece of equipment for this, a brand new item, so that was another. I mean, say what you want about the item itself, it's not like meta defining or anything, but it's nice that they added that in. Hopefully, they continue to do that and add new stuff over time.
Yep.
So those were a few things that I liked about him.
Yeah, I actually agree with all of those. I mean, I know we've always been a proponent of content that allows you to use more units and more vision cards. I know the counter argument has always been that that favors whales and spenders, but at the same time, I've genuinely never thought that the difference between 3 characters and 5 characters is what makes a whale versus like a casual player. I feel like most people have enough that they can still make a team of 5. And I said this to others, like, okay, so you don't have all these new cards. You can still throw Ifrit in there and get your attack percent. You can still throw these generic agility cards in there and still get relatively close. Like, it's obviously not going to be the best team ever, but the argument I've heard is that, oh, if you expand it to 5, then all these new players can't play it. And I just genuinely don't believe that. I don't think 2 units is what makes or breaks an entire account.
Oh yeah, I
Not
mean,
saying
we just showcased the number one team. It wasn't utilizing all the latest and greatest stuff there.
also
It
true.
didn't have all the latest cards. Had Ramsey in there, which was a unit that everybody had access to for free.
Yep.
There is some new stuff in here, but there's a lot of old stuff in there as well. So
Right.
that's proves your point there.
Definitely. And yeah, I mean, I always like the concept of a new kind of item, a new kind of game mode. This to me is where the game starts to feel more dynamic instead of the rinse and repeat. That as much as Guild War is fun, it is formulaic in its own way. And so now at this stage in the game, 4 years in, 5 years in, certainly nice to have something new to apply. So these new game modes, I always give it a thumbs up, even if it's not perfect, because I want to positively reinforce that to Gumi, because I think it's a good mode. I did like the fact that it was a new, interesting map. It wasn't just some cookie cutter, small arena that you can just do some quicken bombs or whatever that we're used to seeing. Obviously, this did favor missile units, no doubt about that. And so some people can be upset that it favored them so heavily, but at the same time, you don't always get these kinds of maps, and I think it was an opportunity to let some of these units shine. Even units like the Ice Alaya, who got the MA3, that's a unit who hasn't been used in ages, and that was a core piece of that KT7 up team. So, like, map aside, I think a lot of good things.
Yep. As far as dislikes, I think, this is something that I heard, across the community. Everybody had the same complaints. One of them was 30 refresh, 30 total matches a day. It's just it's too much, to do over, even though it's only a 5-day period, it feels way too much. It was taking people hours,
Hours.
to do all these matches, which is absolutely ridiculous. And it's frankly exhausting, and it's going to have a negative impact on people's perception of it if it continues that way. Thankfully, I've heard that JP has already reduced it down to 20 matches in their new iteration, which I think is happening now. So that's the right direction. I would urge Gumi lower it to even lower, 10 to 15, I think. And I think that would be perfect. I think that it sheds a big spotlight, unfortunately, on the loading time issues of the game as well, where when you have it's bad enough with 3 units, and certain units also really make it even worse, like Resnick and calculate arithmeticians and things like that. When you have that across another couple of units, it was extreme. Some of the matches that would, then you got to sit there and watch it. If you're trying to study it.
Correct.
So, um, yeah, those were a couple things. I'll save a couple for you because I know you have some too.
Yeah, no, honestly, that those are the biggest ones. It's the load time and the overall time it takes. I I mean, I guess to maybe get around that in terms of diminishing the total number of refreshes, maybe they can come up with some kind of like mulligan system where, okay, you don't get the full 30 matches. If you bring it down only 15 matches, then the margin for error to be number one is way tighter because you only have 15 matches and like that's it. All it takes is one match and you're done for the week. That also doesn't feel great. So maybe there's some kind of middle ground where maybe you can erase your recent score or just something that effect to allow for some flexibility of agency of like how you control your score. But yeah, absolutely the loading times. And I know there's some things like Google Play app on your computer where sometimes it still loads faster. But at the end of the day, this is still a mobile oriented game, and it's still undisputable how long it takes. I honestly thought the rewards were decent. It wasn't enough for me to push and spend the time. If it took me less time, maybe it would be worth the rewards. Like, I don't think the Visior was worth all the extra hours of my week. And although I really like this item, it also requires you to be what, top 10 to actually plus six it on this first go around. So I'm on that alone, I'm not going to push for top 50 if I just know that I can like take it casually this time and then take it casually next time and then I get a plus six then. So the rewards, we've always talked about this, is an important thing for these game modes because unless you have that intrinsic motivation to really do your best, you need those rewards to actually entice you to actually play and be worth it. And I think they were fine. I think they maybe could have been just slightly better given what people actually put in this week. And you talk about people that are all of a sudden like maybe reincarnating units they haven't reincarnated before to try to keep up. I don't like. I can't say everyone did that, but I'm sure there's a couple who did. I'm sure there's some people that pumped up some stars division cards they hadn't built quite yet, and there's that so like there's still some kind of, I'm sure, spend across the competitive edge that I even think like 2000 Visior, that's what you normally get in a regular arena week. It doesn't feel like it's a special arena game mode,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
maybe just a little bit. Like, I don't think it's gonna break the account that someone gets 5,000 Viz instead of 2,000 Viz. You know what I mean?
I've always said too that for these like PvP events, the include scrolls in there, include universal mind spheres. Like,
Right.
doesn't have to be a ton of them, but throw them in there. It's like something that comes across once a month. Give some of those goodies that literally doesn't cost them really anything. People aren't spending a ton of viz on those items. So um, I think that would be nice.
Yeah.
They could even give like a lot more medals to spend in the shops. I actually finished my Sage's staff after, what is it, 4.5 years now for global,
Welcome to the
which
club.
is crazy. So now I've completed all the PvP gear in the game. It seems like a reasonable expensive effort here after 4.5 years to get 3 items.
Yep, right, absolutely. Yes. Actually, the Sage Staff was the first one I ever completed. Just so happened that I went super hard in already trying to get number one for so long that I just lived and died in that mode. But yeah, not worth it at this point in the game, unfortunately. But
Yeah.
congratulations nonetheless. At least you can see you have the triple crown of all those items: the Hermes sandals, the platinum armor, and now the Sage's Staff. I recently got my platinum armor to complete that too. But yeah, no, I mean, just on that note of again of negatives here too. I think that's it for me. Like, I'm really happy that they did this once. I would say don't do it too often. You want to keep the novelty of it, but I think they've shown that even once a month is probably fine. Maybe that's too often, even because I haven't done the 15 refreshes. Maybe that's still a burden for a week. But I don't know. I like the fact that this game mode suddenly feels more dynamic, and obviously, even when you consider the Hollow Vision cards, where they have those dual effects, we so often like really um, heavily weight the effect of a Guild War Hollow Vision card, and not always the effect of a duel. But the fact of the matter is, you have class match and quick pick, and now if you have this Grand Arena as another very highly competitive duel mode, all of a sudden even those vision cards get a little more of like a personal value where you feel good about having them. So I like the extra emphasis on a competitive mode outside of the Guild War realm.
Yeah, so Ashaman in the chat says that it's JP News says it's 2 refreshes, so 15 total matches a day. I think that's the sweet spot. 10 to 15 is what I said earlier. So that's good. I think that if they're gonna want people to be hyped for this over the long haul, um, they're gonna need to continue to iterate on the rewards with new equipment or to kind of keep the excitement there and to keep people wanting to compete because otherwise it's just going to be like, okay, I finished my spyglass. What do I care now, right?
Right.
It's just the same amount of viz as the normal arena week. So yeah, I think that goes into that whole rewards conversation. So think about that, devs, and I think you got maybe a hit on your hands.
Agreed. And just for whoever's listening, just in case, we've talked about this before, it's not new. The arena rewards and like the Mog Shop are disgustingly outdated. They're supremely
Yeah.
bad. I have like 250,000 arena medals right now. I have literally nothing to spend them on. Everything in there is literally junk for me. So like if this is a game mode, forget even the weekly rewards. Like right now we had 5 times medals for arena. That arena shop needs to be overhauled because the vision cards they have in there are old. The seals and the hammers you get, we don't need hammers anymore because the trust stone system allows you to pick them instead of like re-rolling your passives where you used to need the hammers. The like I don't know, there's just nothing that I need in that shop that uh changed that.
Amen.
Yep. But that's everything we wanted to go over for the Grand Arena. We are still going to talk about some other things pretty quickly here, not the least of which is Justin and Friends tomorrow, and we got a very special guest. Welcome back. Back to getting on there. I know I did the last 2 in a row. I was absolutely elated to see this announcement, and I think you told me ahead of time that you were going to be featured. So it is tomorrow night
Yeah.
at I think what 7 o'clock Pacific, so it's 10 o'clock Eastern. Yeah. What do you?
Yeah, so I mean, Justin reached out to me a couple weeks ago, asked if I wanted to come on. I was happy to do it. So yeah, it's going to be obviously you can see that we have the elves hats there. We've got the Christmas theme coming in this week with the winter units coming back. So that'll be fun because we'll have some new stuff to talk about that is going to be coming out in the game tomorrow. And yeah, excited to do it.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm very excited to see that tomorrow once we get the news release too. Obviously, this stream itself is not terribly analytical and it is pretty casual, so I doubt there'll be a lot of like dissecting these changes of the game balance. But nonetheless, you will have a shiny new topic to go over. And I'm sure, given what they've done before, there's going to likely be some maybe random PvP. I'm just assuming, I don't know if that's the case, but if it is, maybe we can get to see some of these winter units again. I know I'll be there,
I,
so yeah.
I'll tell you what, I'm gonna bring the heat when it comes to those PvP matches. So
Do it.
I'm gonna be featuring those winter units. So come at me.
Please do. I can't wait. But yeah, definitely tune into that tomorrow. That'll be on YouTube on the War Divisions channel, and I think they do
Yep.
Twitch as well. But yeah, looking forward to it. And that gets us more back to some other character evaluation stuff. One of them just briefly circling back on Rikku, who we always like to take the week to kind of digest their release, see if it matched our predictions and expectations. Anything changed with you with Rikku so far? Now that you've kind of seen her out in Guild War at the moment.
Uh, I mean, she's great. She's good. One thing is I have been slightly underwhelmed in the damage department, and I think that is because, and it's in certain scenarios, right? It's you can see the limitations when she goes up with against a unit that has very high unit resistance or a barrier. Like those things kind of just shut her down. Um, so she really does need Venera to kind of come in and complete the package. Ashen Mont is another good way to kind of get those same elements with the unit shred, and he does also have a barrier break. So, um, I think that's one thing that I've noticed. The evasion is absolutely there, though. She can dodge with the best of them. So
Hmm.
everybody is already kind of tinkering with their teams to kind of accommodate for them.
Definitely. Yeah, no, I mean the damage it's exactly what I thought it was going to be. It still hits decently hard. I honestly harder than the evade units that I think we're used to seeing. I know Yuffie, well, that you've seen as of late. Yuffie doesn't do damage anymore. Halloween Lucio has a lot tougher time doing damage. It's nice to see a new evade unit come out and actually do some modicum of damage. I think to me that's kind of where it bucked the trend, where a lot of the older, even Starlight Elena, doesn't dish out the damage she used to. So to see this new gen evade unit, I think the damage lives up to where my expectations of it needed to be. And the evasion percent certainly is too, and so much so that it inspired me to make a video today about how to hit evade, because it honestly had been so long. Even myself, when I was doing my unit and Jaden teams, I got kind of complacent, thinking like, yeah, these are two super hyper accurate units, and yet I'm going against some of these Rikus, and I'm still missing more than I would like to have missed, despite the fact that I'm intentionally kind of building them for accuracy. That this is just the tip of the iceberg for Rikku. We don't even have the 42% luck card in. We don't even have the Venera component of what they do dynamically together. That yeah, really kind of made me say like, hold on, this is probably going to be a little more meta defining than we gave it credit for. Yun is not going to shut it down as immediately as we thought, because there is some counterplay to missile, that you can't just chuck missile at the problem. You do that and you're going to lose to a slew of other things, as we've seen in this last week. So yeah, I'm very happy for Rikku in that she really does seem to bring out the new rock paper scissors of sorts, that it adds a completely new dynamic to what can win and what you have to do for it.
Yeah, I was sort of doing some theory crafting earlier, kind of looking at the new card and what it's going to enable for her, and going with the 42%. Right now, we just have Secrets of the Heart, the 35% in the main. So we're going to be getting a 7% there in the main slot. And then if currently I've been using like the Zazan global exclusive card there in the sub slot, it's only 11%,
Right.
Elder Awakened. We're going to be able to upgrade that to put secrets into the sub slot, which is 21% Elder Awakened. So that's going to be a net of 17% raw luck, which I think I calculated out as like 33 or 34 luck onto her current total, which is a substantial amount. That's going to be, I don't know, like 14, 13, 14 additional total evasion
Yep.
onto what she has. So
Yep.
really, really strong.
Yeah, and just on that point too of how it's only going to get better. To your point about using Secrets of the Heart at the moment, if that suddenly goes in the sub slot and you replace it with the Venera Vision card, I'll bring it up here. That Venera Vision card is objectively better in many other areas too, where you're going to also get the 16 AOE res and the 40% reaction block rate. So not only are you getting the increased luck, but you're also getting two really great, like top tier main slot Vision card benefits as well. That it's just even better than just the luck by itself.
Yeah, I've actually been favoring the Reliquary's weapon, at least right now. A, because people are still kind of working on the accuracy, so I don't necessarily need like the other 5 or 6 from her personal weapon. And then B, for the 40% reaction block that is on the Reliquary's weapon, because she is a slasher. So there's just so many like 70% proc rates slashing based reactions.
Correct. Correct.
Like that's it's I prioritize that reaction block. So um once I have this card, I won't need to do that.
I can't find it. Yeah, no, I agree. This has been a excellent weapon in the short term interim for really compelling argument. Either one or the other. I think both have pros and cons.
Yeah, definitely.
But yeah, we'll keep going on here to the biggest news I think of the day is the fact that we have insight as to who our new winter unit is, and it is going to be the Saintly Iron Fist Perrene, the Winter Perrene, with the unique main job of Martial Master. She is a 70 cost unit, and she is a commander. So she's going to have this commander ability. I don't think we've actually gotten confirmation of the stat increases that she's going to give to the party. I know in our Discord earlier, unless maybe we have in that time since we talked, there was some conjecture about what stats it might give, whether it be luck percent, maybe it would be accuracy percent. They could go a lot of different ways with it. But I don't think I see a reaction from you yet, so maybe it hasn't been confirmed.
Yeah, we don't have the full details, you know, in terms of like this. I mean, we'll know more tomorrow.
Tomorrow.
But
Right. But at the
yeah,
very least, the ability itself does give medium CT up when the HP of one of the units on this card, the bow, the fist, katana, staff, black mage, falls below half, and they recover AP one time. So obviously, very nice to have a little bit of natural self sustain in that class, and we know how cancerous CT up can be. So we'll be curious to see how. And this is for guild battle. I'm sorry, that's very important.
yeah,
That this
yeah.
is because we've not had a commander for Guild War yet. It's only been Jaden for the duel and Mont as the universal one. So this is our first for Guild War. So there will absolutely be some power creep implications from a Guild War perspective on this. But yeah,
And
yeah, good.
CT medium generally means 30 or higher, so I'm gonna guess that that's a 30 CT bonus.
Okay.
So basically, kind of similar to the to the wizard rod, you know, across your all of these particular jobs: bow, fist, katana, and black mage. Which, when you think about like Shrek already wielding the wizard rod, you know, getting a double like, you know, 30% CT is pretty crazy. This also boosts Sephiroth, which is kind of weirdly made a comeback here
Yeah.
as as of late, you know, much to my chagrin. But yeah, it's very much like Rams's shout ability, some of the enhanced effects that came in with him.
Yep, absolutely. But they did also tease some of the rest of the kit, and unfortunately, with the new commander abilities, I think they tend to skimp on giving us as many abilities as they used to. I think they used to give us slightly more, but now one of those
Yeah.
slots is reserved for the commander ability. But her limit break is a physical damage increase. I'm sorry, let me take a step back. She's a wind unit and also a strike oriented unit, so she is one of the first fist units that we've had in a little while here. But her limit break is a smaller cross shape here. It's the increase of physical damage and has a sequential ability here that recovers a medium amount of HP around allies to self. I would imagine that's an HP percent, not some kind of curative potential because she's a physical type unit. So I would imagine that this is a pure percent restore of whatever their max HP is.
So
Yeah,
HP medium is 40%.
thank you. Perfect. I mean, that's
Yeah.
substantial. Plus or minus whatever you have for healing powers. So that's certainly a nice mid fight little top off, inclusive of whatever else you have for sustain. But then her one of her main abilities, I was actually kind of impressed. They went back to the diamond shape. That was one of my concerns actually as of late because we went on a lot of vision cards and on a lot of buffs wide res for so long, particularly physical wide res, that if you look at the last couple units that have come out, we're like outside the era of physical diamonds. There are very few characters that have done that as of late, and I didn't know if they would ever start going back to it. So I was kind of happy to see them go back to a diamond attack again to make sure that they're keeping that mitigation valuable, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
But this does raise her area attack res piercing rate, which does help against that type, at least for AoE resistances. And then, oh my god, what was the other part? Sequentially activates the absorber, which bestows magic damage reduction on one ally and bestows an ability of them to absorb damage for one turn, which we've kind of seen with the oh god, what's the Magi Striker class? They do have an
Yeah.
ability that can do that too. So again, kind of a nice ability that has some sustain for the team and some capacity while also reducing some damage. Um, yeah, I'll pause. What do you think about the news so far?
Yeah, so the limit burst, it looks okay. The sequential ability is cool. I like that, but if you look at the actual ability itself, it's not super exciting. Like just damage and like damage up. So that seems kind of eh. Um, we'll have to see what the whole kit is. I don't know if this is going to be like a brand new. I think this is going to be a brand new fist job, like a Gen 4 fist job that we may see going forward. That's typically what they've done with these seasonal units.
You're right.
You know, we saw like Ravius debuted the Great Knight a couple years ago, and they've done it a number of times. But yeah, it's nice to see them going back to Fist. They have been on several cards as of late, including I want to say on that Venera card as well.
Yes.
I think, although that's not coming for us quite yet, but um, that could be a potential mix. The dagger and fist, especially since Venera is lightning and this is a wind unit. Maybe it can help protect you against those earth counter teams.
Yes. I'd agree with that. Yeah.
Because we are getting this unit a little bit early in the timeline because we're getting it simultaneously. So some of these cards aren't out for us quite yet.
No, Fist is actually not on the Venera card.
I know it was on one of them.
Rikku? Rikku, the Rikku card.
On the Rikku card, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we're not going to go terribly in depth on the Vision card that comes out because it's not coming out till the week after for us. I think is what we had confirmed. It's not a simultaneous release here, but it is for seemingly the same jobs. It's for Fist, Daggers, Ninja Blade, etc., etc. It is a unit res card and some magic AoE wide res, so we can kind of get a feel for what they're trying to line up in terms of class overlaps for her. That obviously aligns with the commander ability. Everything at this point is really just conjecture because if we only know the two abilities, we don't know anything about the stats. I'm gonna be the first to say it though that I think of anyone. I think this is gonna be a not great unit. I don't see anything here that I actually think, wow, we need this. Like this solves a problem we have. B, I think Strike is exceptionally far behind. We'll talk about that in a little bit, but a little bit of thing. And 3, I just am a little underwhelmed by the fact that it's a 70 cost unit. The latest 70 cost units that we've had have really not been fantastic. There was a year ago, where the 70 costs really, had some strategic impact. I've not seen that in the latest ones, and I don't see it in this one either. So I love that they chose Perrene. This is like the cutest, maybe the best winter artwork of any of the holiday units. I know that could be a hot take. We can debate who's got the best artwork. They nailed it. It looks so good, but I don't have high hopes.
If you kind of look at what they've done with the 70 cost units as of late, they seem to really try to at least counter a certain character or a certain like play style. So that's what I'm interested to see. Her being wind, obviously she could be positioned to either counter subtly as like earth magic, or maybe she could be highly accurate to counter Rikku. It seems weird to me that they would go immediately towards countering Rikku that quickly, but maybe. So yeah, we'll have to see how accurate she ends up being. But there's no signs of any of that here.
No, but my guess would be that it is likely the subtly counter because the Vision card has the magic AoE wide res. That maybe that's the angle they're going for. But we've seen right now there's two different teams of subtly, and it's subtly Exia, and now it's going to be subtly Rikku for the foreseeable future. If she can only counter one of those teams, she might as well counter neither. Like you're not going to bring a unit like this to a guild war when you know that subtly might be having a Rikku in his back pocket. You're just going to lose. Like there's other teams that you might want to try to bring to combat that, albeit the fact there's not many of them. But this seems like a really big risk to put this unit thinking you're going to take on subtly when the fact of the matter is he's got a diverse selection of teams that he can slot into, and if she can only beat one iteration of that subtly team, that's not good enough.
Personally, I would kind of like it if she had a little bit of an evasion angle to fit into the dagger team, because like we saw, she is on Riku's card for agility and evasion.
Good point.
And then we know that her card is some unit resistance, so that's kind of a card that you can fit into the team, and at least have a few different effects there covered for both jobs. So I don't know, they could it could go really any direction. We'll just have to see in a few hours.
Definitely, yeah. So obviously all conjecture at this point, but that does bring it. Oh, I didn't mean to close that. That does bring us to the topic of what else we're getting this week for winter-related upgrades. And I'm sorry, let me just. There we go. Lost my tab that I had before. And so, yeah, we have some actually really exciting news about Winter Wrath in particular. Winter Wrath is getting the triple crown of upgrades. She is, which was last year's winter unit. She's getting the MA2. They're going to fast track her and give her an MA3. And they're going to give her a limit break upgrade all in one. So we are getting a triple whammy of upgrades for her. All the other winter units, they've already had their MA2s and the limit break upgrade, so they are the next round of MA3s. Honestly, the MA3s of the most recent batch, not bad, but not enough to move the needle on those units. We can speculate all we want here, but I'm going to guess it's the same for these holiday winter units. Most of them, even a year ago when you were like rerunning them, when Winter Wrath came out, I think the general consensus was you can pass on every single winter unit, and that was a year ago. The fact that we're now a
Yeah.
year later with the power creep that we've seen and all the meta changes, if that was what we thought last year, I can't see myself changing this year, even with the MA3s. But Winter Wrath, I don't have high hopes for either, if only because she had a very specific anti magic niche. If they lean into that more, you know what? Subtly, like we were just talking about, is still rather prevalent. Shreka obviously is very magic oriented. Maybe she can still have that angle of, but even then, you're talking about lightning in the earth, and it still doesn't feel good. So, you know, that's my general thoughts. I don't know how much you want to talk about this, but any copium for any of the winter units being good currently?
I don't think so. I mean, we have to remember that the majority of them are like old 80 cost units because four out of the what is it, seven that they're going to be now came out in the first 2 years of the game. So
Right.
like Mashari, Ramada, Winter Venera, and Winter Victora. I like those characters. They look nice, but they're just not going to be usable in PvP. I think best case scenario is that maybe they get some more damage stats so that they're better in like PvE scoring stuff potentially, and that's probably best case scenario.
Yeah.
As for like the newer stuff like Ravies and Winter Wrath, I don't really have high hopes for Ravies either. She kind of has the pierce resistance niche, so maybe that could be cool if Spear Meta ever comes in this game.
Right.
We're still waiting. Um, so that's kind of her thing. And then Winter Wrath, that's a lot of upgrades. It could be good. Lightning is kind of simmering. Like the problem is Sadali is literally like one of the highest played units in the game.
Yep.
And he just 1v3s lightning. It doesn't matter. Like he just toasts them. So I don't see that changing with Winter Wrath. But she does have like the hefty barrier, and you know if she gets like some magic reduction flat, like if she gets like 20% and like an interesting LB upgrade, I don't know. Maybe there's a little bit of copium,
Yeah.
but we'll
Yeah.
we'll see.
No, my absolute super copium actually harkens to Garukin, who just pointed it out in chat. When I was doing that accuracy video earlier, one of the things I was talking about in ways to get accuracy is via character buffs. And Summer Resnick, who recently is like the most consistently amazing, wonderful example of getting an accuracy buff. And I was really thinking about it because I wanted to give some other examples. And I'm like, we haven't really gotten a character that like buffs accuracy in quite some time, but I thought this is kind of interesting. If you go back to Winter Luartha, she actually was one of the first ones that had this very cool uh, buff of accuracy 30% and missile resistance 25%. And I remember looking at this earlier being like, this is straight copium. This unit is a fart in the wind. There's such a feather in terms of what they take for damage. But like this buff on paper, if this is one of the ones with the MA3 that gets upgraded to something cool, maybe it has like a barrier on it so it doesn't repeat as a buff. This actually could be something kind of cool in the toy kit for what we're seeing for like the just evasion and the missile to say like throw her in here and see what happens. I have no hopes for it, but that buff I thought was very timely.
Actually, I don't dislike that take. I think that is pretty spot on. The problem is that Jaden is one of the missile units, so she needs like a fire spear, like a real good fire spear unit,
Good point.
not Volke.
Good point.
Volke's not getting it done against evasion. But she does fit both of those niches. Like, okay, this is a unit that could potentially counter missile and evasion, so I do like that.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Fire
I w-
spear.
I wouldn't be surprised if the next spear unit is fire though.
I would love that. Well, Ramada's lightning and fire and lightning are one of the core like overlaps potentially. So,
Yeah, I can see more being fire for sure.
definitely. And we're gonna like rapid fire here through some of the plus six equipment because we don't want to overanalyze these. Most of these don't actually make a big difference, but I think this is good just for awareness sake. The Stark, there's actually three pieces of equipment being upgraded, and they're related to the units of the Ashen Warriors. It's Lucio and Shadow Lynx and Ketone, and so Lucio's is getting a 10% unit res pen on it, which is conditional for all light units. If this was for Lucio only, I would just go GG next. But the fact that it's all light units, I think, is kind of interesting. Um, Light does have a lot of other really compelling options for swords that I still don't know if this is best in slot, but that could be a lot worse. That is like a new tech that they put on here. I think that's a rather decent one compared to what most plus sixes are.
I actually really like that for Lilith because
Yeah,
she's got the select too,
and her
and
sword's
I
not
don't.
great.
Yeah, her sword's not great, and I don't think that she shreds, so she could definitely use the unit pen.
Yep.
That's pretty.
So
That's pretty solid. I
I,
like that.
I like it too. And the other one here, now one of the unfortunate recurring trends is that most of the 70 cost units, when they get their weapon plus sixes, and I'm thinking of units like Shal's, like Grifford, they're usually relatively minor with what they've done. And unfortunately, Shadow Lynx is in that too. What they've done here is they've given her an increase in her initial AP. Right now, it's only 15 initial AP, and they're just bumping it to 25. It's just not going to do
Thumbs
anything.
down.
Thumbs down. It's do literally
Yeah.
nothing for her. AP's not even an issue at the moment for her. It's literally like five other things that I would have fixed before that. So, 70 costs. It is what it is.
Oof.
Yeah. But then the last one is the Lunacistus Ketone. And hers at the moment is the reduction of the physical damage, where right now it's 15%. And that is getting bumped to 20%. Again, this is one that, like, fine, I guess, but I'm still probably putting Dragon Claws on in like half the circumstances. But it
I mean,
could be
it kind
worse.
of fits her character where
Yeah,
she's draining the HP and absorbing all the
right,
time.
right. So she'll consistently be above that threshold. So like, I don't know how effective it is between the difference between getting one shot or two shot. You know what I mean? Like usually, like I don't know, 5% is really the difference between you living and dying. But I think it fits her. So I relative thumbs up.
She also has a 50% barrier in her kits, and this
Hmm,
stacks with it. So it's not bad. We just need the upgrades for these units, and I think they're kind of setting the table with these weapon upgrades. But I think we're going to be seeing those probably early in 2025. So
agreed.
that'll be something to look forward to.
Most definitely. And just some other like general announcements that they released for content. They are giving us a new event called the Holy Flan Challenge, and they're releasing a new item. It's an accessory called the Snow Moogle Brooch. And we don't know anything about it yet. I will say, admittedly, most of the seasonal things that they've released before have kind of been whatever. They're fun little Easter egg things, and it's cute to see them in the game. But very rarely do I remember ever actually using them. A lot of times, it's just based on the fact that the unique effects are typically for those seasonal units who just really aren't that great to begin with, and so by the nature that you don't use them, you just don't use the accessory. I think the recent summer one of like the little rubber ducky floaty I saw a couple times because it was slightly better than something like the Alex ring in terms of the all element res, but I, this could be a fun item. I don't expect it to be amazing, just on the fact that I don't expect winter units to be amazing.
I like that they do it, that it gives some special effects, and over time they have been improving like the caliber of those unique effects for the seasonals. So I have actually used like the summer item. I think it gives like some damage bonuses, and like maybe even weapon cap. I can't remember exactly, but I've definitely used that, I think, for like PvE stuff. So it serves like a small niche. I'm sure that this will be similar.
Definitely, definitely. And they will have some winter mind spheres and a multi quest for this. So I thought that was kind of cool that in the multi, there's going to be a nightmare stage that if you do it X number of times, they're going to give you some winter mind spheres. I don't hate it. Again, they're free mind spheres as far as I'm concerned. So I'll take it, be able to throw it at, I don't know, some unit for some reason.
Winter Wrath.
Right? But we also have class match coming into the fold here, and so right off the heels of the Grand Arena, this one actually should be shaping up to I think be a very interesting one because this one is a so number one, this is the map that it's going to be on. It's going to be the Ancient Ruins 9. It's going to be unit cost 280 or less. So this is the second time in a row I think that we've gotten a similar cost structure where it's going to be two 100s and an 80 cost unit most likely. which does fit in really well for those Final Fantasy Tactics units. I think they're really the winners of that cost format to get that 80 cost. The winter units will get physical and magic AoE wide res. We don't know the exact percent quite yet, or maybe we do, but whatever it is, it's AoE wide res. And the big one, the absolute big one, which I know you're a big fan of too, is that quicken and haste will be nullified on this map. So you will not have any haste effects or quicken effects, which we've seen a big uptick not only in Exia with her sub job, but we've actually even seen Lemure come back into the fold in some instances where we've seen her bust out the Hastaga and the Quicken once again. So this is looking like a really fun class match, I think.
I agree. This is kind of an interesting map that we haven't seen in a while. It's kind of, you start off on the lower plane and then you kind of walk up into, it's almost like a chessboard, but it's got like kind of a couple of ravines on the side that you can have some pretty big height differentials. So yeah, looking forward to it. I always am an advocate of when they split up the CT effects, either enable CT or enable quicken, and that's what they've done here. So the 280 is nice too, because not only is it good for the tactics units, which have gotten nice upgrades lately, but it's going to be good for these older winter units. And if they actually get some good niche upgrades that can kind of help out the team, that might be nice too.
I will say my prediction for this, I think you guys should all go watch my video because I think you're going to see Rikku freaking everywhere. This cost structure, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw people not actually filling the 280 and just going like Balo, Sadali, and Rikku and hypervade it and just say like, screw you, come get me. Because I think this map is like small enough that they can overtake the gunner units pretty easily because of the initial positioning you can do. That I don't even think Missile, which is like one of the more potentially good teams you could take into this. Again, I'm sorry, from auto class match, manual,
Yeah.
totally different. This is for auto that I would imagine you're going to see a lot of Rikku. And worst case, even if it's not Balo, you might just see the random Agrius thrown out there. Throw Agrius on an island on the far left of the map, jack up her wind resistance, and then have the evade units on the other side. Let all those wind units go throw their shit at Agrius and do absolutely nothing, and just wait for Rikku to come in and clean a house. So that's my personal prediction.
You got Catone in there at 80 cost you could throw out as well.
Yes, who got the MA3? You better use her this week.
I might be. We'll see.
Yeah, don't give away your strategy yet. Yep.
I am the reigning champion of CM, so I gotta hold my title.
Let's do it. I love it. So that's virtually it that we had for what. Oh, I'm sorry. Let's actually pause for 1 second to circle back on something last week that we predicted. We just quickly were going to talk about the limit break upgrades for both Shadow Lynx on Ice and Sylvie. We made some predictions. We really didn't have much hopes, but I figure let's, now that we actually know what they are, talk about them a little bit. The Shadow Lynx on Ice limit break upgrade, she's going to get Dispel Protect on here and reduce this to remove fit like Protect 2.0, and then it's also an absorb of 30% damage done for 3 turns. Not exactly what I wanted. I did still want some kind of survivability thing on her. I had suggested something like a Mirage barrier that's just like a pure one-time 100% barrier because honestly, I don't think going more offensive was the way to fix her. She already packs a strong punch with the Imperil, being a Pierce type unit, being a dark unit where there's not a lot of elemental counterplay for this at the moment, where you're playing into that elemental wheel, and this like absorb damage. I really don't know if it does a whole lot because she's probably just going to die in 2 hits. So you're not even going to live for the 3 turns to ever take advantage of this. So nice try, but not for me.
I wish it was a 50% absorb because I'm not sure. Like she has the innate courage like Catone. That was like what she got with her MA2 that we liked.
Yep.
And I'm not sure 30% absorb is enough to like kind of ping pong her up, above the 70% threshold. Maybe it is,
It's a good observation.
but I agree. I don't. I think that she's gonna continue with her PVE niche, and she got the additional 10% agility debuff there, which is 35% is very, very nice. That's the highest that we've seen at Taizi Ibarra, who also has that on her
Yeah.
limit burst.
You know what? I'd like it more if it was a select 2, but you're talking about a one-time on one unit. And then there's
Yeah.
some debuff weakening games in there depending on who you hit. And when you're restoring CT up every 3 seconds, who really cares what your agility is when you're hasted and getting CT up all over the place? You know what I mean?
No kidding.
Yeah. But the other one here is for Sylvie, and I thought you had a really smart potential prediction to give her a second use of this limit break. They did not go that route. But admittedly, I thought this one was half decent. That this is now a two-time damage reduction, not the one-time barrier that it used to be. So I like that they kind of keep up with some of Resnick in that regard. And then this gives some very notable effects of sealing barrier break for those 3 turns. So you do have some extra consistency to retain these barriers that she grants, while also giving herself some wide res, the 30 or the 25% for both damage types. I think I would have liked to have seen this also applied to teammates. This unit is still lacking enough here that I don't think the limit break would have overtuned her. To me, the limit break is like just enough to make sure she can do what she wants. If it was 2 uses, sure, that's broken. But the fact that it's 1 use, I don't think this would have broken anything because so many units right now have dispel of AoE wide res types that this is not a complicated buff to remove. I don't think this would have broken anything to give it to those teammates too.
Yeah, that's a swing and a miss on that just being a self buff. Actually, a couple of these, the first two effects there are ones that I actually threw out there as potential last week when
You
we
did.
talked about it. The additional hit, but I definitely said that, and
Yep.
then the barrier seal. So I actually think that's pretty good. She needs like a banger MA3, and like maybe she's usable, but I just don't know when that's gonna happen. Like, so yeah, I think she's still on the shelf.
I agree, but that's virtually everything we were going to talk about for kinds of content and upgrades, and figured that brings us to our hot take section, where this has now become one of our favorite things and uh, one of the most fun ways to talk about some off the cuff topics. And the first hot take today is that cost 70 units have not been good investments over the lifespan of the game. Do you want to kick this off? Is that a hot take, or do you think that's true?
I think there's definitely some truth to this. I think that it's a little bit of a hot take though, because there have been good ones and there have been bad ones. It just so happens that a lot of the more recent ones, I wouldn't say that they're bad. It's just that they haven't really had that impact that you necessarily want. But if you think back to one of the earliest ones, like Halloween Little Leela, she was a monster in the game for forever. Like Sakura was also great. Lucia was great. Shalze was great. Engelbert, one of the launch 70 units was great. Lucio. So there's been a lot of really solid ones. I think they've just had like a bad run recently.
I would agree with that, and I think that's important for this hot take when you say the lifespan of the game, because I think you brought up some really good ones that bucked this statement that there certainly have been good investment 70 cost units over the life of the game. I'll admit, I think over the last 2 years, you can make the case they're not good investments, and even then, there's only a couple that really are the unique standouts. Halloween Lucio obviously comes to mind, but I still contend this is a function of Earth more so than it's a function of Lucio. You don't see Lucio in Axe teams, but you saw him dominate with Bradley, who was an overtuned OP unit, and you saw him in some of these like PvP things with Balo, who was an overtuned 50 cost unit. In addition to when like Ashen King Mont came out, and Ashen Mont was the new tier of power creep that gave Lucio a whole second life. I think those things kind of perfectly aligned for him that it really made him shine. That being said, that's he's still obviously a stellar, amazing unit. Literally no qualms on that. And I do think Shal's also bucks that trend as a 70 cost support. She stayed very long, and this upgrade for her limit break is exactly what she needed to still retain some real good value, particularly as a permanent pool unit. But a lot of these other 70 cost units, I do think have been relatively poor investments. Even the ones that were good were not good for long enough. Someone like Lunas Estes Ketone, while a banger meta unit for like a month in that fist meta, has really like just not seen any competitive play since. And you can say that for a bunch of other units that looked great, but never did it.
If you look at like the most recent like handful there, Nickel, Halaya, Lilith, I actually don't think that they're bad units. I think that part of it is timing and like kind of the teams around them. I mean, we showed here and we talked about being surprised with Lilith, and I think like during that Seth, Seth Resnick and Shrek meta, like she could compete there. Halaya, I think actually is very very good and could do a ton of damage. It's just that that's the lightning problem right now. Sadali is everywhere, and he's too good against lightning. So Nickel, I've been quietly impressed with him,
I like nickel
like in some
personally.
of the mono water teams that I've seen. And yeah, I just think that they're not like meta like breakers or anything like that,
Yeah,
but they're good role players.
can I agree slash push back on one of those things because that's the whole fun of this hot take section.
Sure.
I agree with you. Nickel, Halaya, and Lilith are good units. That is, I think, as analysts, undeniably true for us. But I think that they are not good investments. I think if you took 18,000 Viz, whatever that 9 step up was, I would much rather take 18,000 Viz and go spend that on 40 packs of shards for Shreka so you can max Reincarnator. I think that is a better investment of 18,000 Viz than pulling on Lilith and then doing whatever it takes to build up Lilith. So, like, to answer this question, nothing to do with are they good units, but it's like, is it a good investment? I don't think it's a good investment.
Yeah,
Uh,
I agree.
So that's our first hot take. The second hot take, uh, where is Brad in the chat? Because I know I think Brad's the one that prompted us to think this because it's a good take. Hot take number 2: Sephiroth is the best unit investment this year. Is this a hot take or is this true?
I I think this is a cold take because I think this is true. I think that he's he was dominant for the vast majority of this year, and he still is very very good. So I think it's hard to argue with the results and the use rates.
I don't have a strong opinion on this. I think this is true, but I see really valid counter arguments for someone even like Gilgamesh, where now that Sephiroth has kind of petered out in the last month, we've still seen Gilgamesh have some success. It's still not amazing, but it's more than what Seth has. But we've seen Seth come back this week with Missile and some of these other teams that I don't think this is untrue. I can see why he's the best unit investment. I think for those 6 months, if you max reincarnated your Seth, you were doing the right thing.
Yeah, you were eating good for a while.
Yeah, definitely. And he's still the centerpiece for any kind of katana team. And as far as fire units go, he still carries that element. He's still that kind of unit that if you're not prepping for him, he's going to take you over with that curse limit break still. That will has not changed. That will literally win and lose you fights. So that's still got value.
Yep.
Which brings us to another good hot take here. Uh, Hot take number 3: there are not enough legitimate counters for CT mechanics to the point that it's becoming cancerous. Is this a hot take or is this true?
So this was my take, and kind of in light of Perrene coming in with her commander ability, yet another kind of log in the fire for this argument. I think this is, I mean, it's my take, so I think it's true. I think that when you think about the actual counters to like nulling CT effects in the game, a lot of the best ones are purely on limited units. You know, Fang TMR, limited time, can't get it. Um, well, shoot, what was the other one? Una, it's a limited unit. Not
T-
going to be able to get her after this event.
TG Sid
And
is
then
one of the only others too that I can think of that has null CT.
TG said, although we could get him free recently for people that miss out on that, or chose another unit, they don't have that. And then it's Zidane, also a limited unit. So literally the only permanent pool unit that has the capability is Uni, and he's a 40 cost unit. He can't be played
That's amazing.
outside of like class match or something. So we need a lot more options for it because it's become so pervasive and so powerful with like the combos that you can do with the CT up that it's becoming a lot, and hopefully we see that soon.
I also think this is true. I think this falls under the category of like every meta has something that makes it the meta. It could be a variety of things. Sephiroth, it was curse. An evasion meta, it's an evade percent. And all of those things, when they get a little bit out of whack, become cancerous. But obviously, the fact that they're meta to begin with is typically because there isn't a lot of counterplay for it. It is just like the strongest thing you have at that time. And so for me, I don't disagree with this take. I think it's true, but I also know in my head that there's probably something already in the works that's kind of going to phase it out. That it is on the borderline of being cancerous. I would agree with that, because we still see Exia with the quicken strats, Lemuray with the quicken strats, obviously Sadali and Exia with the CT up to both of them to each, and now this Commander Vision card. I even think the Jaden one isn't his CT up on dual modes.
He does,
Yeah,
yeah.
like I don't really notice it as often because it.
Or no, his sequential ability gives the
Oh,
CT
that's right.
up.
Thank you. I knew there was somewhere there. Um, yes, there really is no counterplay. It exists. So I would agree. You make a very compelling argument.
Yeah.
Yep. The next one here, this was my hot take. It's one that I've kind of believed for a little while. And Perrene kind of prompted me to think about this more. Now, admittedly, let me bring this up just for this. Or hold on a second. Let me bring this up as a visual for everybody. The hot take is, besides Axe, Fist is the worst weapon class in the game. It prior to Venera and Rikku was likely going to be Dagger and or Ninja Blade, and I only omit Axe because I think like there's simply not enough characters in this category to warrant it being its own like actual job class, if you know what I mean. But of all the weapon types here right now at the moment, and you can base this off of the characters, you can base it off the vision card availability that they have, you can base it off of like I don't know what the game has existing. Is that a hot take? Is Fist the worst weapon class in the game right now?
I feel like it's in the conversation, but I don't think it's the worst. For me, my worst is Mace. Um, and I mean, not only are like the cards like a little bit dated and like they're have one of the lowest card totals in the game, but like look at the units. Like Halaya, the 70 cost unit, is probably the best one on the board, and like she doesn't even get used much at all. So for me, this one is the worst, but I can see arguments for the others.
Mine was a little bit of a trick question because I agree. I actually think Mace is the worst in the game, but admittedly, I really don't think Fist is that far off. Fist is to this day still carried by Bridal Alaya. The rest of these units, while fine in their own right and still like decent, like Earth Veritas still is like not a bad unit. He's a good unit. Um, Perrene has. I haven't seen Perrene forever. The game is not aged with her. Tifa, we tried. I know there's some Tifa stands out there. I'm sorry, guys. She's just not a competitive top end auto PvP Guild War unit. Even in all the manual stuff I've seen, I've not even seen her used in that capacity. The full metal units are obviously power crept, and while some of these units may have had spurts like Snow to kind of have a little resurgence here or there, by and large, I think Fist has the farthest to come other than Mace. I think Mace has way more ground to make up, but I think Fist is still like almost starting from scratch, which is why when I saw Perrene come out, I'm like, well, that's great. We have a new Fist unit. It's about freaking time because we haven't had a Fist unit come out in quite some time. And although they've gotten some Vision card love, there's a lot of good Vision cards here. The units I think are a far cry from where they were a year ago.
I agree, but I think that's because this Fist team was one of the meta teams about a year ago, right? It was like last January, February ish, somewhere in there. Kind of basically until we had the next gen unit kind of stat jump. Um, but they haven't had any development since then, unit wise, other than the Veritas. So I can still see it coming back if they get some,
Oh, coming
some
back,
more
yes, yeah,
substantial upgrades because the cards are still good. And they've gotten a couple recently. Like I think the Seafer card is like a really solid one for them.
I agree.
But and they have like pretty good tie-ins to like Knight and a couple others. But yeah, it's not great at the moment. So like Perrene coming into this, the new Perrene, the Wind Perrene, if she, we'll have to see what she looks like, because if she's kind of like another run of the mill 70 cost, I don't think she's really doing a ton for the job.
Right. No, I think it's absolutely a reflection of the characters more so than the cards. I think the cards are pretty decent. I mean, admittedly, I think two of these cards, like Chariot and the Exia card, or this is the Sodali card, don't do enough for Fist. That, these stand out as great new Vision cards, but don't really align with that class historically. And even the Rikku one, they've never necessarily been known for their evasion. 2P obviously was, but unless this new strike unit comes out is an evade unit, that stat, while nice, I don't know if it's the thing that's going to elevate a new strike. Maybe it is. That's still conjecture at the end of the day. But I love it, the
Yeah.
fact that they're on the Cloud Vision card. The Steve Vision card is, in my opinion, going to come back in a big way in some capacity. There's too much on this card to not be an amazing Vision card. It's literally like 4 for 4 on how good those main slot attributes are. And to your point, I think the Cipher card is absolutely awesome.
Yeah, I mean they if Perrene is evasive, like the cards are here with Cloud and Riku's card.
Yep.
But I know I see some people in the chat throwing out Book and throwing out Bow, which are also not in great position. But
No, but they're being carried by Summer Resnick. That's why I push back. Summer Resnick is way too good to say that this is like the worst class in the game. She's carrying this class alone. And the
yeah,
same thing for
and the
Bo,
cards
Fina.
are really good.
The cards are great. The Bo unit, Fina alone, I think still kind of like makes this group more salvageable. That I can see Fina being used in 10 different teams. I don't see Fist units being used in 10 different teams.
They have kind of like some limited stuff going on there too, with like Charisse and Shadow Lynx, like for their low cost events. And then Bolt's Lord, saw her quite a bit in the Grand Arena at least, and
Yes.
she looked okay at least on that map. Pretty decent.
Yep.
So
Yeah. All right. That one was intentionally a hot take. I knew that it wasn't Fist, but I thought it was a good debate because Fist, I think, uh, needs some work. They've been left by the road, or left by the wayside, which
mhm.
brings us to hot take number 5. Gumi stopped too early at giving Gun the push it needed. Is this a hot take, or do you think this is true?
I I have been a little bit disappointed with the gun team because I feel like the stars absolutely need to align for it to take out the team that it's supposed to counter, which is Sodali Exia, which we've seen that this is a missile favorable map in Guild War, and we've seen a couple situations just by like team setup and X's and O's where that team can overtake the missile team, either by like a quicken strategy from Exia, which is amazing,
Everywhere.
or like the turtling strat can sometimes get to it as well and kind of cause a similar issue. Um, so it's a little bit disappointing to me, and I think it's all about like the one Yuna's range is too low, and the fact that I'm going to need to put on like a piece of equipment to enhance it feels really really bad, and that's going to be a problem as we kind of go into an evasion meta. And then number two is like just the lack of a solid barrier break on the team. So that is like the two parts of this missile team that are lacking for me and that are kind of causing the issues. So I still think that could come. So I'm not like closing the book on it yet. Like it's still kind of in development, but it's not like hitting the ground running like I wanted it to.
Yep. I agree with all that. And I do think at the moment they stopped too early considering the momentum they were building up with Jaden and Yuna. That right now it's still like a 2-man army. It's those two units and that's it. And even the vision cards, they have some good vision cards. They need one more. Um,
At
and in,
least.
at least and in particular to solidify who that third unit would be, because I think that third unit is still the biggest question mark. Those two units, while do things good a lot of the time, not it's not as consistent. They need a good third unit to really bring them home. And right now, I think that's like kind of slightly one of the misses with the Eureka card and the Jaden card is that they don't share any overlapping classes except for gun. So while they released these two new awesome vision cards, they didn't really do anything to break out that third unit. I think there's a little bit of upside here with the Angela card, which does at least have Staff Devout, which is on the Jaden card, and has Sword Warrior, which is on your Reaper. So the Angela card changes the complexion of that a little bit, because this is still a good card, but it's also still like a magic percent card, so it's really favoring Jaden more than Yuna. The one uh, hope that I have, and I hope that I'm right on this in terms of them building it out, is of what the Final Fantasy 14 Vision card came out here with, in that they have Greatsword on here. We're not going to spoil it here on the podcast on the Leonis support. We got some art that there might be a Greatsword unit coming sometime in the somewhat near future. And if this Greatsword unit is who we think it is, I could see that unit with this 14 card, with the Eureka card, whatever they do, could be that third unit. But other than that, like the bones of the new Vision cards don't really enable gun in a lot of unique new ways.
Yeah, that's I I don't know. I think with that, the fact that that card has magic wide res on Great Sword too, like I think that that's probably what's going to happen. You know, it's hard to kind of say this point without talking about who the unit is. I'm sure some of the audience out there already knows it, but I'm not going to spoil it. But it's going to be a significant unit that probably is going to be for uh, New Year's, and we'll get it February 1st because we'll get it a month later. So you know, we might be like kind of cooking with what we have for gun for a little while, and the team building is a little bit limiting, and I think that's kind of a little bit of the frustration right now. When you look back and you look at like Glove and Devout and like that connection, they already had kind of like strong ties together, and then they just went bam and they released like two cards in a row at least with that were featuring both Glove and Devout together,
That's a
and
great
then
example.
bam, that team was cooking on all cylinders, and it has been for the last couple of months. So that just we haven't reached that point yet for these two new teams, and we're kind of which I mean, maybe it's not a bad thing because you know maybe the for folks that have already invested a lot into the kind of current dominant team, maybe you don't want to see it turned over so quickly. Um, so maybe there is like some good to it too.
Yeah. No, yeah, I don't have a problem with the speed of it, but if they end up not doing anything at all to enhance the gun team, I think they stop too early. But I do agree there's probably some give and take. You don't like I'll be honest, we had this happen with Katana this year, and that didn't feel good either. When you could see they're just like shoving Katana cards down your throat and like three new Katana units and bam, like that's it. You either just do it or you just don't play. And they easily could have done that with Gun. I'm not saying that they should have done that, but just that I think that they stopped too early at this given point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I,
but
I wouldn't be surprised to see Gun on that units card
I hope so.
when they
Please,
come.
yeah, yeah. But but yeah, that's what we have for hot takes. And again, that's all we have at least for confirmed information. I wish we had the patch drop today so we could talk about all these exciting new MA3s and all the stuff that we see for Winter Wrath and the new event and whatnot. But that should be coming tomorrow, so look forward to that at least. And I'm sure we'll no, we won't. We didn't even mention this at the beginning. We probably should have. We're not gonna be here next Monday, so you are not gonna hear us talk about any of this next Monday. We are unfortunately going to pivot, and at the moment, we are likely going to schedule something for Sunday, where we're going to be doing our at this point third annual year in review. So we're going to get together Sunday night, have a couple drinks. We got some slides prepared. We'll do some top fives on the year. Should be anywhere from like 2 to 3 hours long. It'll be a big live stream, whatever, on a Sunday night. So hopefully you can join us on a. I mean, I know it's still technically a school night, you know, Sunday night, but
A
but
lot
yeah,
of people have it off though, kind of going into Christmas and Christmas Eve. That's you know,
yeah,
so you know it'll be a good time. We always have a blast doing it and kind of wrap up the year, talk about the goods and the bads, what we want to see to come in 2025, and just kind of hang out and have a good time with all of you. So hopefully you guys can make it.
I love it. Can't wait. But that's it for now. I know a little bit shorter than usual by a couple of minutes, but I don't think it's a bad thing. But, you know, appreciate everybody for being here tonight. Hopefully this was entertaining per usual. You can always leave questions and comments in the comment section after this live stream has gone up. And as you've seen, we do still look back and look for stuff to talk about. So if you want to leave comments or DM us on Discord. We're around. We'd love to have topics here to talk about on the podcast. But thanks for your participation and your presence tonight. And JB, good seeing you, man. Have fun on the JB live stream tomorrow. Make sure everyone tunes in for that. But that's it
That's
for
right.
now.
We'll see you with Justin and friends tomorrow.
Yeah. Enjoy the night. Good luck pulling in the meantime if you are tomorrow. We'll look to see